Hello, everyone, and this is the makeup class for Friday, September the 27th. Today is the day of the festival. I hope you are all out enjoying yourselves. I've decided to make this makeup class a little bit simpler than I was originally planning. My original plan was to talk about Generation Z questions, the questions that you made up. I was also going to talk about descriptive writing and then do a writing tutorial based on your first homework assignment and then give you your second homework assignment. But I've decided for today, I'm just going to talk about your Generation Z questions and then talk about descriptive writing. The writing tutorial that I want to give based on some of the mistakes that students made in their first homework assignment, I'll do that next Wednesday when we meet in class. Okay, so let's get started. I was able to take a look at all of the questions that students gave me for Generation Z from all of my Global Communication 2 classes, and I noticed a number of questions kept coming up. Some of them were worded a little bit differently, but they were all quite similar in some ways. These are some of the questions which I thought were the most interesting. The first one, Generation Z is very selfish. Do you agree or disagree? This is a question that I think at least one table in every class asked. There is this assumption that Generation Z is more concerned about its own affairs and maybe strongly individualistic, caring about each person rather than the group. Whether or not that is true would be a good topic to discuss. Number two, do you think offline advertising can still be effective when targeting Generation Z? This was another good question. We normally think of advertising for Generation Z as being primarily online, on YouTube, Instagram, or just in general on the internet. But could there be any cases where it still is effective to market to Generation Z using offline marketing techniques? I thought that was a good question too. Number three, choose the celebrity that most embodies key characteristics of Generation Z. I thought this was a really excellent question. When people think about a given generation, they'll often think of a celebrity that in some ways embodied key characteristics of a particular generation. I would think, for example, for my generation, Kurt Cobain would probably be a strong contender for, the typical Gen Xer. Robert Downey Jr. actually might be on the list there too, considering how things went for him. As far as women go in Generation Z, I've always thought that Winona Ryder would probably be a good woman to be the representative celebrity for Generation X, which is my generation. If for no other reason than she was the star of probably the most Generation X movie ever, Reality Bites. And if you haven't seen that movie, it's worth checking out. Next, why is Generation Z obsessed with cancel culture? Cancel culture in the United States is focused on finding celebrities that have said something that was problematic in the past. Maybe they said something that is now considered discriminatory towards one gender or another, or a racial group or something else. And then people are quite vocal online about wanting these people to be canceled. They shouldn't appear on TV. They shouldn't get roles in movies. They should not be allowed to be the host or hostess of an award show, things like that. I would be interested to know if this sort of cancel culture is still, or whether it is as common in Korea or not. Next, Generation Z tends to quit jobs easily. I thought this was an interesting question, actually. Generation Z tends to, according to one of my classes, get bored quite easily. So they like to jump from job to job rather than have one job for a long time. A few other questions that were notable. Generation Z is more open-minded than their parents' generation. Agree or disagree? What is the most cost-effective way of advertising to Generation Z? Why is Generation Z not interested in getting married and having a family? That's a big issue that we see in the media a lot these days. And the last one, which I thought was quite curious, is why are pop-up stores so popular for Generation Z? Pop-up stores literally pop up. They tend to be built very quickly and then taken down quickly. They might only be selling a certain product for a few days or a few weeks or a month. They come up and then they disappear very quickly. So they're very much about catching the trend of the moment. And more than a couple of people pointed out that these stores specifically target Generation Z. Why are they so popular with this generation? That's an excellent question. So thank you very much for all of your questions. We might take a look at some of these questions a little bit later on in the course. But for now, let's move on to today's topic, which is descriptive writing. Using your vocabulary skills to express experiences that you might see, things that you can hear, touch, smell, and taste. If you do a good job with descriptive writing, somebody can read a paragraph, an essay, or a story that you've written, and then they will really be able to feel what something sounded like, what something tasted like, what it felt like, what it looked like, what it smells like. Good writing can really capture something about a person, a place, or a thing. I'd like to start off with an example from a novel that I've read called Convenience Store Woman. It was written by the Japanese writer Sayaka Murata. Although I cannot read Japanese, I do have the English translation. And the beginning of the novel describes the lifestyle of this woman who's in her 30s, and she works in a convenience store in Tokyo. And the very first sentence of the novel is, "A convenience store is a world of sound." And she lists a number of really interesting sounds that she hears in her daily life. The tinkle of the door chime when customers come in, the voices of TV celebrities on the in-store broadcasting network, the beeps of the barcode scanner as she is scanning the items the customers bring to the checkout, the rustle of customers picking up items. You can hear the crinkling of the plastic bags, the clacking of heels walking around as female customers walk around the store. You can hear the clack, clack, clack of high heels. And when somebody takes a bottle out of the fridge, you can hear the faint rattle of a new plastic bottle as it slides forward in the fridge. All of these are great images that help me understand what it is like to work in a convenience store. And like the author says, a convenience store is a world of sound. A second example that I'd like to give you is from the acclaimed New York Times bestselling author, Stephen King, who has probably sold 400 to 500 million copies of his books. A number of years ago, he wrote a book on writing, How to Write Well, and book's actually titled On Writing. It begins with a short autobiography where he details key episodes from his early life and what shaped him as a person. There's one example that I would like to give you from this book. And Mr. King, if you're watching this video, please don't sue me for copyright infringement. This is just for educational purposes. So early in the book, Stephen King describes a childhood visit to the doctor. And here are the basics of the story. Stephen was sick when he was 6 years old. His mother took him to the doctor. The doctor said, that his ear was infected. The doctor drained his ear, and it hurt a lot. Now, from these 5 sentences, you really can't get a strong sense of what the experience was like, how it felt to be a young child in the doctor's office in the 1950s. The doctor has a long needle that he puts into Stephen's ear in order to pop the eardrum and drain the ear. So Stephen King describes this experience, and I think the way he uses words is very, very effective. Let's take a look. So yeah, here are some of the descriptive terms that he uses. So he slid the needle into my ear and punctured my eardrum with it. The pain was beyond anything I have ever felt since. It was pain beyond the world. I screamed. There was a sound in my head, a loud hissing sound. Hot fluid ran out of my ear. It was as if I had started to cry out of the wrong hole. God knows I was crying enough out of the right ones by then. I raised my streaming face. By streaming face, he means his face is streaming with tears. I raised my streaming face and looked unbelieving at the ear doctor and the nurse. Then I looked at the cloth that the nurse had spread out over the top third of the exam table. It had a big, wet patch on it. There were fine tendrils of yellow pus on it as well. There, said the doctor, patting my shoulder. You were very brave, Stevie, and it's all over. Ironically, just before the doctor slid the needle into Stephen's ear, he said, "Don't worry, this won't hurt a bit." I think this paragraph is extremely effective, not only from the choice of verbs. He slid the needle into my ear, punctured my eardrum, but we also get the repetition of the image. The pain was beyond anything. It was beyond the world. Hot fluid ran out of my ear, my streaming face, and the cloth had a big wet patch. We have the fine tendrils of yellow pus, a very, very disgusting image. But after reading this paragraph, I think we can very clearly understand what it was like to be that small boy in the doctor's office so many years ago. This brings me to descriptive essays, and I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about their purpose, structure, and also give you a short writing sample. So the purpose of a descriptive essay is very simply to describe a person, place, or thing. You want to give the reader a clear mental picture, using the power of language to bring a subject to life. If I can read a piece of writing and feel like I've really met a person, or I've been to a particular place, I feel like I've really been there, or I've held a certain object, well, then the writer has done a very good job of conveying that experience. In the introduction, it's quite common to give a little bit of context, make the reader interested, so we understand why the writer wants to describe this particular person, place, or thing. And then we have the thesis statement, the main idea. Okay, we move into the body, and in each body paragraph, you tell me something about the person, place, or thing. You might have one paragraph that describes the visual element, another one that might describe what you hear, or you could mix them up. There's no simple formula for writing a very good descriptive paragraph. And then in the conclusion, you give us your final thought or your opinion on this object or person or experience that you're describing. So a lot of descriptive language includes adjectives and adverbs. So you're telling me something in particular about that noun or verb. It's a good idea to avoid oversimplified language. If you tell me that something is nice or bad or happy or sad, these words are acceptable, but they don't carry any special power because they are quite generic. So try to include words that are specific to whatever it is you're describing. I'd like to give you an example now. In the textbook, there's a 4-paragraph essay called My Favorite Restaurant. And this essay describes the writer's favorite restaurant. Let's take a look here. So this is on page 52. By the way, this essay includes sensory language from all 5 senses. We get vocabulary that describe what something looks like, what something sounds like, tastes like, smells like, and also the sense of touch as well. It says, one of my favorite restaurants is Ben's Diner on 4th Street because it's perfect for a casual, delicious meal. Ben's is a family business that has been serving the local community for over 60 years. Look for the red neon sign with its flashing knife and fork. When you see it, you know you can expect good food that was cooked with fresh, local ingredients. As soon as you step through the door at Ben's, you'll be glad you came. The restaurant is brightly lit and spotlessly clean, with gleaming tables and sparkling floors. You'll get a warm welcome from one of the staff, who will take you to a comfortable seat. I like the soft red leather seats in the booths, or sometimes I sit at the smooth marble counter. The pleasant noise of conversation and the soothing clatter of dishes will surround you. If you're not already hungry, the rich smell of homemade chicken soup coming from the kitchen will get you ready to eat. Ben's menu has some old favorites and some unexpected surprises. The perfectly grilled burger is made of 100% prime beef. Served on a soft toasted bun, it's crunchy on the outside and moist and peppery inside. Add some sharp cheddar cheese for a satisfying treat. The Greek salad is famous for its fresh ingredients: bright green lettuce leaves, deep red tomatoes, and tangy purple olives. Or how about chicken fajitas, served beside your table in a sizzling skillet? I like that, a sizzling skillet. Sizzling, so you can imagine the oil bursting on the surface of the skillet. I think the Korean term for that is jiggle jiggle, which is another very descriptive term. So whether you're whether you're looking for somewhere new to get some great food or just passing through, I suggest you head over to Ben's. You'll feel right at home and enjoy some good cooking too. Okay, I'd like to read just one last example here. And this is from another source, however. This is from a book called 2 in a High Chair for Smoking. In this book, the author talks about working in a family restaurant, and it's divided into a number of chapters where the experiences of working a part-time job, like a convenience store, are described in great detail. In this particular part of the book, the writer talks about remembering something from when they were in middle school. The author is working in the restaurant and it's not very busy, so the writer thinks back to when they were in middle school and how they used to ride their bike home from their friend's house. And I think this is a pretty good example of descriptive writing too. So let me just bring this up here. Okay. All right, I'll share the screen so you can see the text as well. All right, so I'll read this. This will be the last example that I give. Okay. Oh, hold on. Share the screen. There we are. Okay. A shift was a shift. Most passed without incident. Eaters came and went. I cleaned tables and took cash. Time passed with nothing to hang a memory on. Purgatory must be like this, I thought. When things were slow, my mind wandered. Over time, perhaps prompted by the weather, I found myself thinking about an old friend that I used to hang out with in middle school. His name was Pat. In the autumn of grade 8, he often came over to my house to play video games. Other times we would ride our bikes to his house and hang out there. He lived near the top of a long, steep hill, and getting up there was a slog. Riding home, though, was legend. There weren't that many houses that far up the hill. The area was undeveloped in those days. The few houses that had been built were fairly spread out. After sunset, the streetlights lit up the road, but beyond the asphalt, there was only underbrush and darkness. On cold evenings, I could see my breath when I left Pat's house to go home. I had no gloves, and the air, cold and damp, chilled my hands. It was time to ride. I got on my bike and pedaled to the end of the long driveway. There were no sidewalks this far from town. People's property ended at the street. Riding home meant riding on the road. I turned my head and looked into the darkness. No cars. And then I was off. I picked up speed quickly. There was no need to pedal, but I wanted the thrill of going as fast as I could, the cold sting of the wind on my cheeks. It was exhilarating. I imagined I was racing from danger or towards some awaiting glory. My breathing and the spin of the bicycle tires were the only sounds in my ears. I approached an intersection. Was a car coming across my path? I couldn't see. There was a house on the corner, but beyond it was darkness. I was going too fast to even consider stopping. My stomach tightened, and I tasted fear in my mouth as I entered the pool of light at the corner. Empty asphalt splayed out in 4 directions, and the intersection vanished behind me in a wink. More lay ahead. As I passed another house, I could hear a dog barking. I wondered who lived there. Were they my age? Did they go to my school? I could sense danger. It got stronger as my bike picked up speed. Houses became a blur in my peripheral vision. My cold hands gently squeezed the brakes for a moment to confirm what I already knew. I was going too fast to stop. Finally, the hill began to flatten out, and I could see the lights of a small corner store. It served as a landmark to separate Pat's neighborhood from the suburban sprawl that I called home. Some nights I went inside and bought a slice of pizza. The owner baked it fresh every day, and it was delicious. There was a small table near the window. I would sit down and devour it, warmth filling my stomach. The ride was almost over, and I found myself wishing it were a bit longer. There was no speeding through intersections now. Cars came and went in all directions. I had to stop and wait. Houses and yards were smaller, with no space between them. There were sidewalks now, with people walking their dogs or talking to each other. Lights were everywhere. I rode down the hill, carefully. Soon I was pedaling to the final corner. I could see my house. The lights were on. I could hear sounds. Someone was watching TV. I locked my bike in the backyard, my hands still freezing. The ride was over. Okay, so that's the last piece of descriptive writing that I'd like to share with you today. Let me just bring back my PowerPoint here, just a moment. And here we go. All right, now, if we were in class today, what I would probably do is put you into groups and begin letting you choose one of these following products to write a short paragraph about. We don't have the time to do this today, but I'll just leave this with you as something to consider. When products are advertised, it's quite common for them to be accompanied by a description of some kind, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 sentences that tell us something about the product and make it appear very appealing for different people so that they might want to buy it. What kind of descriptive language do you think would be effective if you wanted to market one of the following products? So my first example here is the barking dog alarm. You obviously aren't going to talk about how the alarm tastes, but you might talk about the sound of the barking dog. The idea is the ferocious sound of the barking dog alarm will scare off any intruder. You might describe the feeling of safety that somebody can have, knowing they can sleep through the night and not worry about their personal safety. Next, we have the boyfriend pillow, which is quite funny. This is a pillow that is shaped in the shape of a boyfriend's arm and shoulder. So those cold winter nights, you can feel the soft cushion and lasts longer than 85% of boyfriends and includes a money-back guarantee. Next, the dogrella. If you wanted to write about the dogrella, you might want to describe, for example, the contrast between the wet, rainy day, the wet sidewalk, the wet streets, trees with leaves that are dripping, and the soft, fluffy, dry fur of your dog, which is protected by this umbrella made for dogs, hence dogrella. Gentlemen, if you'd like to have a six-pack but don't want to go to the gym, this product might be for you. This is the Abhancer, and you might describe how it can give you the appearance of, rock hard or rock solid abdominal muscles, even though the truth is the man's stomach is probably quite flabby. Next, this is probably the most expensive product on the list. It's the ping pong door. You might want to emphasize the amount of fun that this experience can have. You no longer need to be bored with your roommate in a small apartment. If you have the ping pong door, you can very easily fold it out and then be able to play a good game of ping pong. You might even describe the sound of the ping pong ball, hitting the table and then being hit by the paddle as a way of describing the fun of this experience. And finally, we have the mix sticks. These are sticks that can be used not only for drumming, but can also be used in cooking. So you might want to describe how someone making a rich, aromatic pasta sauce might be able to practice some funky beats while they are cooking. I think that's also quite interesting. However, we're just about at the end of today's makeup lecture. I hope you've enjoyed my talk on descriptive writing. For homework, I would like you to do two short things. I would like you to read the descriptive essay on page 54 called Adventure Seekers Wanted. It's not too long. It's just 4 short paragraphs, and it describes a product that is readily identifiable. Also, please answer questions 1 to 6 on pages 54 and 55. So just to quickly recap, we didn't have a chance to look at the homework from the previous class. So when we meet next Wednesday, first we will take a look at page 37. These are the exercises from the Generation Z article. So page 37, exercise B, and then exercises C, D, and E. That's on pages 38 and 39. Yeah, and then read the essay on page 54, the descriptive essay, and then complete questions 1 to 6. We'll do that, plus have our writing tutorial on Wednesday. So I hope you enjoy the school festival, and I hope you've enjoyed this makeup lecture. I'll see everybody next week. Bye-bye.